The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1, XM Sirius Channel 83 today. Last couple of days, I'm just doing my radio show. I walk around town. People are saying, where are you? I turned on TV, and I said, well, I'll be on TV tomorrow, that being today. It is great to have you in. It is a pleasure to have you in. Yesterday, 30 minutes into our show, I got a text that Tom Brady was going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a place I ever saw as a front runner. I went with it. It was a celebrity slash wealthy source of the few friends I have who are up in that stratosphere. This was one of them. He's a friend. He called and he said, Brady's going to the Buccaneers. I said, really? And he said, yeah, it came down to the Dolphins, it came down to the Chargers, and it came down to Tampa Bay. So I texted him. John Goulet created this music bed. So when I have to go to my phone during the show, I can at least, the audience knows it's a signal that I am getting. Yeah, it's this. That means I'm on my phone getting a text. So this happened yesterday, 30 minutes into the show, and I said I've never used a source who's not a football source to break a massive football story, but I went with it. And we were right, about 6 hours ahead of everybody else. Doesn't really matter in the end, but that's what happened yesterday if you did not listen to our show. Let me say this. I worked in Tampa for 2 years. I loved covering the team. Tampa Bay, there's a lot of 5 or 6, 7 irrelevant franchises in the NFL on a yearly basis. Tampa Bay should not be. Cleveland, ownership, in and out of coaches, in and out of quarterbacks, in and out of GMs. Good God, since Baker Mayfield arrived. 3 coaches, interim coaches, numerous GMs. There's a reason they're bad. They're dysfunctional in ownership. Washington Redskins, there's a reason they're dysfunctional. The owner is a meddler. Then there's organizations like Cincinnati. They're cheap. They just don't have a lot of money. Then there's organizations like Jacksonville. There's just apathy. They're now playing games regularly in London, more than one this year. Tampa shouldn't be this bad. They've had great coaches. John Gruden, Sam Weish, Tony Dungy, Bruce Arians. They've had Hall of Fame players. They won a Super Bowl. They've got passionate fans. Stadium can be packed. They have great facilities. They should not be bundled up in this Cleveland, this kind of malaise of apathy and weak ownership. Their owners are not poor. I know the Glazer family. I love the kids. Didn't know the dad particularly well. But when I worked there for 2 years, the front office was smart. The players were good. The coaching was excellent. This was not Cleveland. This was not Washington. This is not Detroit. It's not cheap Cincinnati. What has held them back? Quarterback. Since 1976, since Tampa's been a franchise, their passer rating, last in the NFL, 73. Completion percentage, this is hard to get your arms around, last, 56%. Their quarterbacks have thrown 830 touchdowns and 852 picks. This is, you know how franchises say, we are just a quarterback away. Tampa is. They're last in everything. In quarterback. They've got a wealthy owner, passionate fans, smart people in the front office. They've had great coaches. They've won a Super Bowl. They've had great players. When I was a kid growing up, we didn't have a pro football team in Seattle. Then we got one in 1976, 77 season. Seattle got one. Jim Zorn, Sherman Smith, Steve Largent. It was an offensive team, couldn't stop a nosebleed. Tampa was the opposite. Tampa had the Selman brothers. They were great defensively. They couldn't score. If you'd have just been able to combine the two. So I've been following Tampa forever. They were the team that came in with my Seahawks. And then I went and worked with them and had a blast. It was well run, smart people. But they never could get the quarterback right. I was looking this morning. That's why Brady's going to fix this thing. Their first quarterback was Steve Spurrier, way better coach than quarterback. Then they went to Randy Hedberg. Boy, those were the days. Doug Williams was solid, not spectacular. Then they had a bunch of Steve DeBergs, Jack Thompson, Vinny Testaverde for a few years. Back to Steve DeBerg, Trent Dilfer, my buddy. I covered those teams. Sean King, Brad Johnson, Brian Greasy, Chris Sims, Byron Leftwich. They had the Josh Freeman years, Jameis Winston. They don't have one great quarterback ever. The Super Bowl they won with Brad Johnson. His nickname, perhaps mean-spirited, was Captain Checkdown. They're the only franchise. They're it. Every other franchise has had a guy. One. Steve Young played for about an hour there. That doesn't count. So last year is so classic Tampa. They were 7-9. 6 of their 9 losses, touchdown or less, in the game late. In those 6 losses, 12 turnovers. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston had 30 picks last year. In the last 4 years, Tom Brady's had 29. So Jameis had more last year than Brady's had in almost half a decade. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the one franchise that can say, you know what, we're a quarterback away. And they have been, mostly for the last 30 years. And now they've got one. He's a leader. He's a winner. He is accurate. He doesn't make big mistakes. He's great at the line. They are the one franchise where I look at and go, good Lord, if they could just get a quarterback. They never have. You think Chicago, Miami have had their problems? You think Denver's had their problems post John Elway? They've had talented guys. They had Peyton Manning. God, Tebow even won there. Miami post Dan Marino. They've had some interesting players. Tannehill wasn't bad. Tannehill would arguably be as good as anybody Tampa's ever had. He's up there with Doug Williams. Better than Josh Freeman. His career's better than Trent Dilfer. He's a better player than Brad Johnson. So Brady's going to work. Are they going to win a ton of games? I don't know, but they got the weapons. Let me also say this. I work at Fox Sports. Best place I've ever worked, most fun I've ever had. This is, by the way, a weird 2-3 week stretch that's going to probably be a weird summer. But I was thinking yesterday with Tom Brady, it was a good day for Fox. For years and years, CBS made a lot of money putting Tom Brady on those late games. Tom Brady is now a Buccaneer. By the way, Tampa and Tom Brady next year face Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, the L.A. Rams, and Drew Brees twice. Those are all national TV games. Those are great watches. They'll be on Fox. Conversely, New England now, which CBS has leaned on, is an absolute snooze. They have no weapons and Jarrett Stidham, and they just lost 2 of their best 5 defensive players. How good are the Patriots going to be? I said yesterday, I'm not so sure. They haven't built up enough equity to tank. Do a Golden State. They don't have a contingency plan. They don't. They just let go of 2 top defensive players. Doesn't look like, from what I can tell, they've got anything planned. Why would they? Go 5-11, 4-12. Get rid of some players, free up cap space, rebuild, and go get a quarterback next year. But Tom Brady will win this divorce. And it may be, at least in the press, an amicable divorce. But he's going to win it for the first 2 years. Because he is inheriting Bruce Arians and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and a great tight end, functional running backs. He's going to win this puppy. His production is going to be outstanding. And New England's going to be a complete bore at quarterback. And they've got, I believe this morning, the worst weapons in the NFL. It is now a weapons league. So don't kid yourself on this. The Lakers were unwatchable the second Kobe retired. Cleveland twice. Fascinating to unwatchable twice. Golden State today. Unwatchable when the Stars left. San Francisco without Jimmy Garoppolo being healthy. Brutal. He's healthy. Can't take my eyes off him. Aaron Rodgers, every time he rolls up on that collarbone and misses a game, you can't watch the Packers play. The Colts without Andrew Luck. So the consumer, you, control TV ratings. Therefore, you, the consumer, control the networks. Tom Brady's going to be all over the networks for at least a year. against Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees twice, L.A. Rams, Patrick Mahomes. CBS this morning is figuring out ways not to put the Patriots on. So short term, Brady, for a year at least, is going to get a lot of love, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of attention. He'll be a topic on this show weekly. New England will not. Don't kid yourself. Fans are attracted to stars and stories. Brady is both. New England is neither. The winner in this divorce for a year, perhaps amicable, kind of, sort of, is Tom Brady. There's so many different ways to dissect this today. We've got a Cam Newton story. Michael Irvin saying, I know why DeAndre Hopkins left. One of the things that I think is really crazy is that when I worked in local news for years and years and years, this is the way it would work. In fact, I've seen this in media my entire life. Is that, let's say you have a boss and he's a yeller and he's a screamer and he's kind of crazy, but he's brilliant, and it works for a long time. And then the company's like, okay, he's wearing us out, we're firing him. The pendulum always swings too far the other way. Then you get sort of a quiet, laconic, chill to a fault boss that isn't engaged. Is that this is the way business works. This pendulum swings back and forth and back and forth. It's the guy, you're in a relationship with somebody that's quiet, the librarian. You know what? I want to spice it up. And the next relationship is wild and late nights and it wears you out. And there's a reason you were attracted to the librarian. That I'm not sure there is anything more opposite than New England in the NFL than Tampa. And I'll just line it up for you. Is it a midlife crisis by Tom Brady? It is a wild pendulum swing. And we'll be back after this. You've all heard of Casper. Casper is the sleep company that not only has really comfortable beds, but outrageously fair prices. The mattress is award-winning. They have sheets, duvets, pillows, dog bed. We've got that. Beds as well. 4 layers premium foam, back alignment that is trademark. Give you the spacing in the back. I need that as I've aged. Bedding, bed frames, all you want. Right now, they've got a multitude of options which last until March 23rd. So you've got at least the rest of this week to get it done. Right now, 20% on all mattresses through March 23rd. Yeah. One offer per customer and order. Additional shipping fees may take place in Hawaii and Alaska. Go to Casper.com/terms if you want to see the additional terms and conditions. One snooze at a time. Had another great night's sleep last night. Brady, New England, Brady, Tampa. A midlife crisis? That's next. Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit end of your first year. Even more amazing, Discover's accepted at 95% of the places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Discover.com/yes. Good to have you in today. Nick Wright, Jay Glazer, top of next hour. Rich Ohrnberger, who's a fascinating guest, played with Tom Brady in New England. Chris Sims, who's been in on this story. Phil Sims' son. He's also a broadcaster, Chris Sims, for NBC. We go to Las Vegas later in the show. We are packed today. You know what's interesting, Tom Brady is really, I think, Belichick and Brady uniquely and both formed a culture in New England that was several things. Very efficient, very cerebral, very detail-oriented. I could make an argument that the Tampa Bay Buccaneer franchise, and this is not a shot at them, it's just their reality, is the opposite of New England. New England has really zero weapons and won't spend for them. That is now the strength of Tampa, their weapons. New England has sort of a no days off culture. No days off. Work your fingers to the bone. Bruce Arians, the coach of Tampa. Cocktails early. Once bragged on HBO, I don't understand why coaches can't go home for dinner. The exact opposite. New England is frugal and then cerebral and efficient. Tampa's talented, unbelievably inefficient the last several years with Jameis Winston. New England the last 20 years has been defined by the greatest quarterback ever. Tampa Bay's never had one. New England, cold weather. Tampa, September, October, you're playing in an outdoor sauna. Believe me, I've done live shots from that stadium. Boston's an academic hub. I'll say this nicely. Tampa is a strip club hub, and I'll leave it at that. No shot intended. We just do the facts here. New England's got 6 Super Bowl banners in an end zone. Tampa Bay has a pirate ship. These are the opposite. If this was not football, it would be a midlife crisis for Tom Brady. He's going to be productive. Is he going to win? I don't know. He'll win more than last year. But winning in the NFL is details. Production isn't details. Houston isn't very detail-oriented. They score a bunch of points. The Pittsburgh Steelers with Big Ben are not terribly efficient. They're not great with the details. They score a bunch of points. Winning in the NFL is details. Special teams, few penalties, don't turn it over, good coaching. New England does not have the most talent. Does anybody think over the last 10 years they've been top 2 or 3 in overall talent? I do not. I thought that team, they beat that Charger team 2 years ago, they beat in the playoffs by 40. I thought the Chargers had more players. So did the Pro Bowl voters. Okay, so Tom Brady's going to be productive, but he is going to the opposite of what he has been in. He has been in a frugal, efficient, cerebral, button down, every paper picked up in the hallway franchise. Tampa Bay is loose, not saying they're not smart, but it's loose and talented and inefficient, and they take big swings, and it's a different environment. It's not an academic hub like Boston is with 51 universities, where the Celtics compete against the Red Sox. They've always been ahead of the curve on analytics. The Celtics have, the Red Sox have, the Patriots have. It's a different culture. I think Tom's going to like it. You know, it's again, you're dating somebody that's more fun, that goes to bed late, stays up. I think he'll like it. The question is, will he become frustrated with it? Will there be times when he's like, we just lost 27-26 because we had extra penalties and 2 of our guys couldn't remember a play. Remember this, too. The virus means no OTA, no camps, no workouts. Tom lives for that. This is not only is it a weird pendulum swing, New England to Tampa, culturally, organizationally, but the virus is shutting down all the workouts. So you're going to have to do some of this on the fly. This will be the least prepared Tom Brady has ever been as a quarterback. And he thrives on details. You remember the documentary Tom versus Time? You remember that? Tom smirked when he said, God, I could just sit and watch this all day as he's drinking a lean smoothie, as he's in, pajamas he developed to sleep longer, as he's, made of kale, as he's eating vegetable ice cream. He's all about the details. Tampa's not been. And they're not going to massively change overnight. I just read something this morning. Tampa still can't get over the fact Tom's there. Like, people in Tampa are like, what? Brady's going to wear pewter. He's going to wear orange. It's like, yeah. It is a big swing. It is a big swing. He'll be productive. That I don't doubt. Tom will be productive. Will he win a bunch of games? You're going against Sean Payton. You know, you got Drew Brees twice a year, Matt Ryan twice a year. I think the Falcons are well run. Teddy Bridgewater, by the way, is now in division with Carolina. Unlike Cam, he doesn't make mistakes. So you got to beat teams. They're not going to beat themselves. Matt Ryan didn't beat himself. Sean Payton and Brees don't beat themselves. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't beat himself. Tampa historically beats itself. Has games won, screws up. Weather can be unpredictable. We've had so much rain in Los Angeles and getting more as of, I think, Sunday or Monday. Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades available at Walmart. Tested for tough environments. Last 2 times longer than other blades. Here's my veteran newsman, John Goulet.
No. Heard on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Colin, sticking with old quarterbacks, the Colts signed Phillip Rivers to a 1-year, $25 million deal yesterday. Their previous starting quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, showed some promise early, but eventually the team lost 7 of their final 9 games.
He got hurt.
Yeah. Rivers is coming off a rough year in Los Angeles. He threw 23 touchdowns to go along with 20 interceptions. The Chargers went 5-11. The Colts have a really, really good roster, top to bottom. A little low on outside weapons, but good O-line. They upgraded their pass rush with DeForest Buckner.
They've done everything right.
Are they a playoff team with Phillip Rivers?
No. I think they're slightly better. He's got so many miles. I was talking to Tom Telesco, the GM of the Chargers, last night.
Name drop.
Name drop. And I said to Tom, I said, you're going to miss Phillip Rivers? He said, we love Phillip Rivers. He's great at the line of scrimmage. We just have to kind of reboot.
Yep.
But he did say if you can give him protection, Phillip can make throws. Phillip can beat you.
And he should be familiar with their offensive system. Frank Reich was...
Yes.
He has a connection to Frank Reich, so it shouldn't be a learning curve thing, but it's just how much does he have left in the tank? After 20 interceptions, I don't know.
Yeah.
According to CBS Sports, the Bears have been in contact with the Panthers about a trade for quarterback Cam Newton. The expectation is the Panthers will probably release Cam, seeing as they already signed his replacement and said goodbye to him on social media.
Yeah.
However, the Bears might not want to take their chances on signing him as a free agent and might prefer to just give up a late draft pick in order to get him. Do you like the fit of Cam with the Bears?
In a weird way, it's where he fits. Cold weather city. You're going to play in Green Bay and in Chicago. He's got a big arm.
Yeah.
Big arm. Also, Trubisky's strength is athleticism. So you've got some of that stuff where you got your quarterback rolling out. Cam can do that very well. Also, this is a team that doesn't have to. It's got a very good defense. So you don't have to be wildly productive on offense to win. If there's a place for Cam to go, this feels like the right place. He's a big personality.
Yep.
This is the home of Oprah. This is Michael Jordan territory.
There's also a toughness thing, right? And he's he gets hurt, but he plays through a lot of smaller injuries.
Never been a fan of Cam Newton, but every player in that organization has always told me, dude plays hurt every Sunday. He has a very high pain tolerance. That part about Cam is indisputable.
There's also he's recovering from a foot injury and a shoulder injury. With Trubisky there, if he needed another few weeks to get healthier, or you wouldn't have to start him day one necessarily, right? You could say we're having a competition. If he needed more time to heal, you could give that to him. He doesn't have to start.
It makes sense to me. It fits. The arm, the offense, Cam in Chicago feels to me, for the record, wouldn't it be kind of fun?
I think so.
It's kind of fun. I'd kind of like to see Cam Newton in Chicago.
So if that makes sense to you, this one does not make sense to me. Former Cowboys tight end Jason Witten is signing with the Raiders. Doesn't feel right. He signed a 1-year. He can make up to $4.75 million. You knew he was not going to be a Cowboy. They gave a big deal, the Cowboys did, to their other tight end, Blake Jarwin, 4-year deal, $20-something million. So Witten leaving was predictable.
You know what this is?
Going to the Raiders.
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, tell me what it is.
It's culture. They're paying $4 million for culture.
Yeah.
Witten's a great guy. He's a leader. As they're rebuilding, they've got a ton of young players on offense. I mean, look at the Raiders' offense, a bunch of kids. Got a couple of veterans on the O-line. It's kids. You're spending $3 or $4 million Mayock likes him. Everybody likes Witten. He's a grown-up. He'll come in. This is very Bill Parcells.
Sure.
Parcells would bring in a backup tight end. When he took over the Dolphins, he brought in, the guys that are great for the locker room, the weight room. Witten is a great guy to be in the offensive meeting rooms all week. Smart, an adult. He's a mentor. So I actually like the move. I get it. Listen, it's another state with no state tax. It's Vegas. It's Gruden. And you don't need him. You don't need Jason Witten to be a 75-catch guy. If he's a 45-catch guy with a touchdown, it's a big win.
Also, the Raiders might be dead set on just hiring every former broadcaster they can into the organization.
That's a good point. John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Nick Wright's my buddy. First things first off this week. You can hear him XM Sirius Radio. He's fantastic. I listen to him all the time, and he is now joining me live. He's done radio Kansas City and Houston. Like myself, radio is our first love. So let's just step it back a couple days. Tom Brady leaves New England. What was your first 30 seconds in your mind, in your vast mind? What was your first take?
My first take was I was surprised, and good to talk to you, Colin. I'm glad you're doing okay. I was surprised that extension 2 years ago, and they said, how about some incentives you won't reach, even though you just won league MVP and we just went to our 8th Super Bowl. He took that. And then he asked for a contract extension last year after they won their 6th Super Bowl. And he led a fourth-quarter comeback on the road in the AFC Championship game and then completed 3 3rd-and-10s in overtime to break my heart in Kansas City. And they said, how about a small raise, Tom? Because we don't know if we believe in you anymore. He knew he was going to have to sing for his supper this year, and he was off key all season long. And the idea that, well, they now want to bring him back when they didn't want to bring him back when he was coming off Super Bowls 8 and 9 and MVP number 3. I never bought it. And so I wasn't surprised. I was shocked when I was watching you yesterday to hear that he's going to Tampa and not California. But I still don't totally get it, why it's the Bucs out over the Chargers, aside from maybe he smartly doesn't want to face Patrick Mahomes twice a year, because who would? But I wasn't surprised he left New England, Colin.
By the way, I said this. If a guy gets in a midlife crisis at 45 years old, he buys the convertible sports car and he wears flashier clothes. This has a midlife crisis to it. Tom is going from this rigid, academic, incredibly efficient culture, very frugal. Tampa's had flashy players. It's not efficient. It's not the same city, the same vibe. You could argue it's the opposite. The pirate ship in the end zone. It's loose. It's fun. Bruce Arians is like, cocktails at 5. Let's go home. There's a kind of a midlife crisis feel to it that Tom has kept saying, I want to have fun. Maybe he went to a place that historically has too much fun. Do you think he fits it all football-wise?
Well, I think he will be a leveler in that regard. I think Bruce Arians is an excellent offensive mind, and they obviously have tremendous weapons. Everyone's talking about Godwin and Mike Evans. I don't know if you've talked about this yet today. I apologize. I didn't see the very start of the show. I'm wondering if he brings Antonio Brown with him. If he does, that is a absolutely potent, top-of-the-league trio of receivers. So I just don't know if the Bucs got better. They got very different. I think last year Jameis was like the 17th or 18th best quarterback, and I think Brady was the 17th or 18th best quarterback, but for drastically different reasons.
Yeah.
Jameis was where he was because he's awful and amazing. Brady was where he was because last year was consistently average. So they got different. I don't know how much better they got, but I do think the NFC South is the most wide-open division in football. I don't expect Carolina to be super competitive. Who the hell knows about Atlanta? And Drew Brees is the second oldest quarterback we've ever seen at this point. So it's really interesting in that regard.
Let me just throw this at you. I always have a rule that smart people don't get conveniently dumb. When the Patriots put their hands in the air for Deflategate, it's like, stop. Okay, you're too smart to just not know what's going on with the footballs. Belichick has a plan, yet they have no concession for Brady. They let 2 top defensive players go. They have no weapons in a weapon league. Do you think it's crazy because he's built up so much equity, like Steve Kerr, like let's be honest, the Warriors, where you can tank for a year and everybody's like, yeah, it's new arena. We get it. I mean, post Michael Jordan, the Bulls sold out for several years and were unwatchable. Is it possible the plan for Belichick is, listen, we're gonna get draft picks. We're gonna get really young. We're letting expensive old guys go. We're going to be bad for a year. And guess what? We'll be a top 7 to 8 pick next year with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and quarterbacks. Is that crazy to you? Their plan is actually not being great and rebooting at quarterback.
With respect, yeah, that's crazy to me.
Okay.
I think that they believe, I think, first of all, whether it would be fair or not, if the Patriots are terrible next year, even if it were to be part of a plan, people are going to hammer Belichick, and I don't think he wants to sign up for that. That where all of a sudden there's a kernel to, well, here was his record in Cleveland before Brady. Here was his record in New England before Brady. And now look at him without Brady. So I don't think that's the plan. And I think Belichick looks at the AFC East and says, we still might end up with the best quarterback in this division. Like, who is Miami's quarterback? I know you love Darnold, but I don't know if Belichick sold on him after he made him see ghosts. And Josh Allen's a trick-or-treat quarterback. So, no, I don't think. Now, are they going to go all out, a la 2007, try to add weapons on weapons? No, but I think he believes they can. I think he says, we won 12 games last year with average quarterback play. Why can't we win 12 games again this year with average quarterback play? So I don't think that's the point.
Nick Wright joining us, First Things First, which is off this week, but he's doing tons of radio and social media stuff. Couple of you broadcast in Houston. You are not a fan of Bill O'Brien, but
no.
He does keep winning the division. In this league, you can screw up a lot, but if you get the right quarterback, you win. Indianapolis does everything right, doesn't have the right quarterback, not winning as much. Could I make the argument with DeAndre Hopkins? If they had just gotten a second and a second, not a second and a fourth, you look up this morning and wide receivers do not lead teams to Super Bowls. They're not going to beat Kansas City because they're not going to outscore them. They can't stop them. And he's going to have to pay a left tackle. He's got to play Deshaun Watson. You're not going to beat Kansas City in a shootout with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Those days are done. You're going to beat them the way San Francisco almost did, with a lot of draft picks up front, pass rush, cross your fingers, and that DeAndre Hopkins wanted to restructure his deal anyway, and they wanted him out. And that Houston's probably going to win the division again next year, and we're overstating that bad trade.
Again, I'm going to have to disagree with you in this regard. I don't think aside from star quarterbacks, I don't think you can hear a player was traded and say, well, that's terrible, until you hear the compensation. Like, Khalil Mack's traded, oh, my God. And it's like, well, they got 2 first-round picks and this. And it's like, okay, I kind of understand it a little bit more. It is not inherently wrong to trade DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
It is inherently wrong to clearly not shop the deal. In a world where Stephon Diggs goes for a 1, DeAndre Hopkins going for a 2, and a running back whose contract is about $10 million underwater is absolutely abysmal. And this is where Bill O'Brien, the head coach, and Bill O'Brien, the GM, have a lot in common. In that playoff game against Kansas City, it wasn't in a vacuum not going for the 4th and 1 that was awful, and it wasn't the fake punt that was awful. It was those two things happening in the same game within 5 minutes of each other. There is no consistency in decision flow. He said to the world when he traded 2 1s and a 2 for the 8th best tackle in football, Laramie Tunsil, he literally said, I think draft picks and unproven young players are undervalued or overvalued, and established veterans are undervalued. You can't say that 7 months ago and then trade away a superstar for a second-round pick. And if you are going to trade away a superstar, Amari Cooper got a 1, Odell Beckham got a 1, a 3, and a 5, Stephon Diggs got a 1, Brandon Cooks went for a 1 twice. How DeAndre Hopkins goes for a 2, it just means to me he took the first deal available to him, and that is why you can't be the head coach and the GM. It's too big of jobs, not equipped for it. So I understand what you're saying. and if he had gotten a better return, I could justify it.
Yeah.
The return is what kills it.
Yeah, I think your point initially, I'm not against the idea of bailing on a receiver when I've got pretty good weapons in Deshaun Watson. It is the compensation. If you said 2 twos, I'd go, all right, just a 2 and a 4. You don't even really get a 4 because you had to give up a 4. Just getting a second-round pick feels like you walked into a grocery store and you grabbed the first thing you saw and left. You didn't price shop at all.
Right. If you've got a sports car and realize you don't need it, it makes sense to sell it. But if there's someone that, if you call them and ask them, would give you $80,000 for it and you sell it for $30,000, you made a terrible, terrible deal, even if you needed to sell the car.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did there.
Well, I don't own one. I drive.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, I am very family truckster all the way for me.
I thought you had one of those fancy Mercedes, Colin. I feel like they probably just gave you one. Being one of the title sponsors, I feel like you don't even know what cars you have at this point.
Of course I drive that. Nick Wright, buddy, I love talking to you.
You too. I hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for having me on, Colin. Talk to you soon.
You bet. Cam Newton's out of Carolina. Everybody says, Colin, you don't like him. To that I would say, either does Carolina. They're about to cut him if they can't trade him. My thoughts on Cam Newton's career in Carolina coming to a close and the people who still cling to Cam Newton. Strangest fans in America. Jay Glazer, top of the hour. We're going to have another big deal today. We are going to have another big deal. Glazer may pop it top of next hour. Guys, never a good look when you walk around with a shirt untucked unless it's from Untuck It. That's a company designed to create shirts that are worn untucked. That's what they do. 80 retail locations in America. 50 different fits for their shirts. 50. Tall guy, short guy, thin guy, angular guy, wide guy. Doesn't matter. This is what they do. 50 different fits for Untuck It. GQ calls them perfection. They've got their spring and their summer lines available right now. Go-to for any occasion. You're just going out to dinner for your wife on a Tuesday night. You don't want to look like a slob. Boom. Maybe you're going to a little bit of a company party. You don't want to wear a coat, but you don't want to look like a slob. Boom. Casual, dressy works. Untuckit.com. The code is HERD, H-E-R-D. That's always the code. 20% off your first purchase. Again, Untuckit's got 80 retail locations across America. Jay Glazer, top of next hour. Third. Welcome back. Good to have you in, and thanks for turning in to FS1 today. We're on TV. I'm in a radio studio in Los Angeles. We're going to do this for the rest of the week, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do over the weekend. Jay Glazer, top of next hour, is fantastic. Rich Ohrnberger, Chris Sims. We'll go to Vegas. Listen, a lot of people are home. A lot of people are asking me. We're on every platform now. We're just not in a big TV studio at Fox Sports. We're at iHeartRadio studio, and this is the home for a lot of people who started. I think Ryan Seacrest started in here. Like some of the all-time great radio people have started around this building and in this studio, so it's an honor to be here. So Carolina is basically cutting the cord with Cam Newton. I've never been a huge fan of Cam. I am a big fan of Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater is now going to sign a contract, 3 years, incredibly reasonable money. Cam Newton fans are interesting. They remind me of people who are into politics, really embedded into politics. You can give them facts, and they just don't care. People get so embedded, liberal, conservative. It doesn't matter what you tell them. They don't want to hear it. They want affirmation. They don't really want information. Cam fans, more than any fan base in the country, want this. Cam's average. Cam is a career 59% completion percentage. That's below average. Passer rating's 86. Average. He's an average player who had one great year. That's it. Talented? Yeah. Big? Yeah. Strong? Yeah. Handsome? Yeah. Model? Yeah. Stylish? Yeah. Good? Not really. Not really. I hate to break it to you. Well, he didn't have enough support. Stop. Ron Rivera was out of work for as long as the phone call took for Washington to pay him millions. Great coach. Well, I'll just say, good coach. Got to a Super Bowl. Offensive lines Cam had, multiple Pro Bowlers, including Trey Turner, who just got traded to the Chargers. Defense, mostly top 10 with Ron Rivera. Running backs, he had 3 different good ones. D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, Christian McCaffrey. Wide receiver, Steve Smith, Hall of Famer. Tight end, Greg Olsen. I don't want to hear he didn't have help. By the way, this offense with Teddy Bridgewater is going to score a ton of points. He wasn't efficient. That's a Cam issue. Since his MVP year, he's a 500 quarterback with 65 TDs and 44 picks. Well, he runs around. That used to be unique. Now he's not even the best at that. He's average. He's an average quarterback who had a great year. You can find kickers. You can find receivers. You can find running backs who have a great year. But I don't want to hear that he didn't have support. How many Hall of Fame running backs and wide receivers has Aaron Rodgers had? Name the great defenses Aaron Rodgers has had. Aaron Rodgers has had less help defensively than Cam, and I would say less running back help than Cam. Well, Mike McCarthy, you sure he's better than Ron Rivera? All my sources say coin flip. A lot of them like Ron Rivera more than Mike McCarthy. McCarthy's had better quarterbacks. So Cam's never had back-to-back winning seasons, and I've always felt that really defines him. Is that Cam is inconsistent. Cam is distracted. Cam has a lot of interests. And it's not that I've said this, talent, it's indisputable. But to be great year after year after year, it doesn't matter if you're a quarterback or a salesperson, you need to be emotionally consistent, and Cam is not. Cam's all over the map. Cam's got a lot more issues behind the scenes than anybody wants to talk about. This is a career passer rating guy of 86. They're going to be better offensively with Teddy Bridgewater. We all get caught up in arm and size. That's not what this league's about. This league is overwhelmingly about don't make a ton of mistakes, be good on third down, be above average at the line of scrimmage. A lot of guys winning Super Bowls that don't have cannons for arms. Okay, Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl. He's not a world-class athlete. He lost to Tom Brady in that Super Bowl. Not a world-class athlete. Tom Brady lost to Nick Foles in a Super Bowl. Neither's a world-class athlete. Is Jimmy Garoppolo a world-class athlete? I mean, last 4 or 5 Super Bowls, we've had one world-class athlete, Patrick Mahomes, in a Super Bowl. And the other thing is, Matt Rule is the new coach of Carolina. And Matt Rule is all about creating cultures. That's his stamp, right? Like at Baylor. He's a culture creator. What he's telling you with Cam, I don't want him to be any part of my culture. I got no interest Cam being part of my culture. I'm going to create a different culture, and I like Teddy Bridgewater as a fit. And, people say, Colin, you don't like Cam. Carolina doesn't like him. They signed another quarterback, and Cam's still on the team. Meaning, they may just cut him. I mean, they already said goodbye to him. They don't like him, and they know more about him than I do. Jay Glazer, hour 2, next. we go, hour 2. We are live in Los Angeles. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio. We are on today on FS1 just from a radio studio. And on Sirius XM Channel 83. It is great to have you. This is a different week for us. My career started in radio, so I love doing radio only. These days, we put it on every platform we can, and it's great to have you here. Firing through the first hour, Nick Wright was fantastic. Jay Glazer in 5 minutes joins us. Jay, there will be another big deal in the next few days, if not today. So Jay Glazer will join us. His thoughts on the proceedings. As far as New England, we know Tom Brady's going to a very, very talented offense. By the way, the Buccaneers defense last year with Todd Bowles, who I always liked, he's a better coordinator than a head coach, was top 10 in the NFL in efficiency. Tampa Bay is going to win some games and be productive. Are they a playoff team in the crowded NFC? I'm not sure. It's not an organization that historically has been buttoned down in terms of details, though they've had a ton of talent. I think Tom swings that pendulum a little bit. They become a little more efficient, if not a lot more efficient. But it is a division where it's kind of hard to, you got twice a year Breeze, twice a year now Bridgewater, twice a year Matt Ryan, guys that don't beat themselves. These are going to be tight games. It's going to be probably the strongest quarterback division in the NFL in terms of efficiency between Breeze and Bridgewater and Brady and Matt Ryan. No stiffs, not a lot of picks, a lot of smart dudes. Belichick has a plan because he's smart and always has a plan. I just saw this morning he let another defensive player go. That's 4 total defensive players he's let go. Van Noy, Jamie Collins, Duron Harmonen, good player, rotational player, sometimes starters, gone to Detroit. He's done a couple solids for Detroit. His buddy, Matt Patricia, Brian Flores, coach of Miami, his buddy. I think they have a plan. It's starting Jarrett Stidham. Tom Brady is already $13 million on the cap this year and not there. So if you paid Andy Dalton $20 million, that's a $33 million quarterback. I don't think he wants to do that. I don't believe that smart people that always have a plan suddenly are caught off guard. They didn't make an offer to Tom. They didn't pursue Tom. They haven't pursued weapons. This feels like, to me, we'll start Jarrett Stidham. We'll go 5-11, maybe 6-10, put ourselves in the top 10 in the draft. We built up a lot of equity. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they think they go in the Super Bowl. Look at the roster. Look at what they're doing. Seems to me they're getting younger. They're a little old. It looks like they're getting younger and less expensive. They're going to pay very few people. Stephon Gilmore, they're going to pay. Their kicker, they're going to pay. Joe Thuney, O-lineman, they're going to pay. Not many other people. Certainly not the quarterback position. Am I surprised that Tom Brady left? I said this yesterday when I got a call 30 minutes into the show that he was going to Tampa Bay. We broke that story about 6 hours before. You know, your typical NFL guys. I was surprised it was Tampa. I was not shocked. I was surprised he left New England. But never forget, superstars. Kevin Durant left a dynasty. Why? What do we find out why later? It was that Draymond Green moment. And he didn't feel the organization addressed Draymond Green. Why did LeBron leave Cleveland a second time? LeBron felt the organization didn't listen to him. They traded Kyrie Irving. LeBron said, do not. Who cares if he wants to go? Do not trade him. Tom Brady. The organization wouldn't listen to him. I need weapons. These alpha males, they want to be treated differently. And if they've won titles for you, LeBron in Cleveland, Durant in Golden State, and Brady in New England, sometimes when they say stuff, listen to them. They deserve to get babied a little. Durant did not forget the Draymond situation. He ignored it, and he played through it, and he played nice, but he didn't forget. And LeBron kept trying hard and played really well post-Kyrie, but he never forgot. And Brady, weapons, he's wanted them. I read a story Albert Breer said this morning. Listen, Brady grew older, had kids, found business interests outside of football, and may to some degree have been done being dealt with as if he was a long snapper. And I also think the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. I want to play a bite. TJ Hushmanzada had predicted on our show, Brady, 0% chance he's coming back. Let's be honest about it. Tom Belichick wanted to replace him a couple years ago. And much like Durant with Golden State or LeBron and Kyrie in Cleveland, Tom may play nice, but Tom knows 2 years ago, you tried to get rid of me for a guy that I think I'm still better than. Here's TJ on. He thinks that's the reason Tom left.
I look at the Jimmy G situation where Belichick was basically, he was gone, lawyer Maloyum and Richard Seaborn. He was going to get rid of him when he could still play. And Bob Kraft said, no, you're not doing this. So they got rid of Jimmy G. And I don't believe Brady could ever get over that. That's like your wife saying, no, I'm going to go date another man. Okay, are you okay with it? Oh, I'm going to stay with you. I didn't know he had a girlfriend. Like, who's going to go for that? And so Brady had to put up with it, and now that he can leave, he's going to leave.
I mean, Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, he criticized his high school coach. You know, alpha males may play nice and play through it, but they don't forget, and maybe that was the reason. Jay Glazer joined us, I think it was Monday. We were so glad to have him, at Jay Glazer, Fox Sports NFL Insider. So, I mean, during this whole New England thing with Brady, you've often said, I don't want to be wrong. Were you surprised in the end he left New England?
Oh, no, I wasn't surprised. You know, there's been a lot, you know, and you just touched on it also, just kind of the treatment there. And I know, you know, for a while it was just kind of masked as, hey, if we could yell at Tom, we could yell at you, and it showed us we could yell at anybody in those team meetings. But, look, Colin, this is a head-scratcher for me. I mean, he's the greatest quarterback who's ever lived. They had a top 10 offense with missing their center, who's David Andrews, who's a huge part of that offense, a subpar, you know, members of that offensive line, really not great weapons for him to use, and still a top 10 offense. And as you know, life in the NFL absolutely sucks when you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And to just kind of treat him this way, and I know business is business, and friends are friends, and family is family, but, man, this is a huge head-scratcher for me. But the fact that he goes down to Tampa Bay is, you know, Bruce Arians is, I mean, he's obviously the life of the party. I wish I could just be at the, you know, the 4 o'clock meetings with him and Bruce, and, you know, the open bar that'll be over there, and the beer and vodka that'll be flowing.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa's an interesting, you know, I was saying earlier, I covered them for 2 years in Tampa. I thought the Glazers were not cheap. They were good people. They were smart. They've had Hall of Famers. They've got a Super Bowl. The facilities are nice. The fans are passionate. A lot of bad teams in the NFL, I can look at a cheap owner, Cincinnati, or dysfunction, Cleveland, Washington. The thing that's held Tampa back in my lifetime, when I was there, they had Dungy, Gruden, Sam Weish, Bruce Arians. They've had good coaches. They've had great players. They've never gotten quarterback right. I do feel like I think Tom solves some of their issues immediately. Jay, do you?
Oh, absolutely. And now the weapons he has over there, absolutely. I mean, you're bringing in, again, the greatest quarterback who's ever lived. I know Tom House, who coaches him in the offseason, still thinks he has at least 3 years left in him. But, you know, I think everybody looked at the teams and said, well, it won't make sense, doesn't make sense. And Tampa Bay just always sat there. And one of the X factors has always been a guy like Bruce Arians. Man, Bruce, as you know, how fun it is. I think Bruce dropped a couple of swear words on your show, right, when he came out. He's just, you know, he's a walking party. And the man can coach quarterbacks. He can coach offenses. You always know where you sit with him. You always feel like Bruce is like your favorite uncle. You just never want, like he and Andy Reid had the same thing. You never want to let him down. And he could rip you, but at least you know he's being honest, and he could love you up better than anybody else.
There are some, doesn't make it right, but some are speculating. Antonio Brown, Tom Brady.
Nope.
You don't think so? Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Do not. I know there's speculation. I really don't see that happening. No. And people think that, listen, just because you played somewhere where someone coached doesn't mean those two are best friends. So, no, don't see that happening.
Let me throw this at you. We've seen this in the NBA with Golden State. When you win a bunch of championships, you have equity with fans. New England's let 4 defensive guys go, no contingency plan at quarterback, virtually the worst weapons in the league. My gut feeling is they go with Jarrett Stidham. They try to develop him and end up with a 6-10 record. That's okay. They built up equity, accumulate draft picks. They reboot. They get younger and less expensive. And then they address quarterback maybe next year or this year in the draft. But I don't see a Cam Newton. I don't see, to me, they've built up equity. I think they're going to kind of reboot. Does that make sense to you?
I don't know. still think that look, Bill Belichick's not going to want to sit there in his twilight years and just kind of, be a 6-10. I think they're going to. I don't think it's fair yet to say what they're going to be because the free agency hasn't even started yet. Starts later on today, and that's why, by the way, there's no official anything from either side. I think the Buccaneers will wait to make sure also that 4:00 comes. There's nothing that could ever be construed any other way, especially when you're dealing with the Patriots. But I don't think it's fair yet to say what the Patriots are going to be because now you know that Tom's gone. Now they're going to have to start building up what they see as their team in the future. I don't know what that is.
Did the Indianapolis Colts, and you know how it is in this league, Houston makes a lot of mistakes, but they got the quarterback right. Indianapolis makes very few mistakes, but they may not have the quarterback right. Did they just put their problems on a credit card with Phillip Rivers? He's going to play for a year. It doesn't solve their long-term viability at the position. Did they just kind of say, we'll put our problem on a credit card, address it next year? What do you make of them giving up a first-round pick? So now they're not going to get their future quarterback, it appears, in this draft. What do you make of what they did?
Yeah, he's a Band-Aid, and they understand that. But they also want to make sure they're trying to win now, which is why they go out and get a guy like Buckner. But it also shows you that they didn't think their quarterback of the future was in the top 12 of this draft.
Oh.
And if you don't, then that draft pick becomes a little bit more expendable, and that's why you bring in Phillip Rivers. And, Frank Wright obviously has an awful lot of, familiarity with Phillip Rivers and what the issues they had last year and what he thinks he can correct with them this year. But, yeah, Phillip, I don't think there's any mistake about it. Phillip's a Band-Aid.
Yeah. Chicago, Cam Newton, what do you make of that story out there?
Here's the problem with Cam. Is because of the coronavirus, you can't physical him. You can't look at his foot. You can't look at he's been banged up quite a bit. And so we're in uncharted territory right now. And things are changing by the minute, right? By the second, by the hour, by the day. But how do you go and invest heavily in somebody you really don't know where they are physically?
Yeah, it really is interesting.
Right? I mean, Cam Newton. And it's just there's been kind of different Cam Newtons, if you will, right? You really want to come meet with the guy and bring him in, and you're not allowed to.
Oh, hey, by the way, as much as I think Brady will be very productive in Tampa, no OTA, no camp, this will be the least prepared. I mean, Tom's all about culture and chemistry and details.
Yep.
Tom Brady's going to have a Tampa team. He's going to be learning on the fly like never before.
Well, I think, look, Tom has that greatness sickness, and what I mean by that is the guys who are 24/7. Look, we all know how hard a worker some of the other quarterbacks are because they let us in, right? The Mannings and the Breezes, they let us in. Tom doesn't. But in knowing people that he's worked with, other coaches and players, he is constant. Like he has that sickness. 3:00 in the morning, texting a coach, hey, let's look about this. Look at this matchup. Hey, how about doing this? Hitting up his receivers, hitting this person. It's nonstop. In order to be great, you got to be crazy. And he's crazy in that way.
By the way, Jay's MVP Merging Vets and Players Organization having a virtual MVP meeting with retired vets and former athletes this week and every week until we are through these very, very precarious times, allowing us to practice social distancing while still being connected to our new guys, Merging Vets and Players. As always, Jay, we love having you on.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for that plug, man. Yeah, we're going to be holding sessions tonight, and we have 5 cities. We want to make sure, when our vets and players hear the word isolation, it is not good. So we're making sure they don't isolate. We'll meet with them all. We're going to have a virtual workout, all of us together, and then we're going to sit around and have our mental health talk in each 5 cities. So you go to our website, vetsandplayers.org. We are here for you. We don't have to isolate. We got to get through these times together.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Coming up next, I talked to a scouting director last night on the East Coast regarding, it's funny about this quarterback draft. It's Joe Burrow. It's Tua, who I like. It's Justin Herbert. It's Jordan Love. It's Jake Fromm. It's Jacob Eason. And very interesting thoughts on the quarterback class that I'll save it. Very interesting thoughts on this quarterback class. Taxes, that's the one thing we all have to deal with this time of the year. And as a business owner, it's critical that you know your options. And that's where LegalZoom comes in. Okay, LLC, S-corps, DBAs, and more, they all mean different things when it comes to paying taxes and limiting your personal liability. Lot to think about. That's where LegalZoom, independent attorneys in all 50 states. Okay, these are not hourly rates. These are tax pros, independent attorneys giving you minute-to-minute advice on a changing landscape in America. It's not a law firm. No hourly rates. If you got to incorporate living wills, LLCs, DBAs, and more, that's what they do. Make your accountant happy. Call LegalZoom today. LegalZoom.com. Get on the right track for 2020 where life meets legal. LegalZoom, I've used it before. It's outstanding. LegalZoom.com. Vague pricing, not anymore. Go to TrueCar. Upfront prices, dealer online. Search from over 1 million pre-owned vehicles with TrueCar. By the way, our podcast numbers, our radio numbers, we have had this NFL is the only thing going on right now, and there's a lot of fascinating moves, and we are so happy that some of you are choosing us. We know there's a lot of options and yesterday I just turned the TV off. I was with my daughter and her friend. I wanted some positive news, something that was uplifting, and I just couldn't take report after report and negativity. We're going to get through this. We will. We always have. We're going to be fine. It just takes a while to get through stuff. I'd like to say this. So yesterday, I got nothing but time now. So I'm sitting there yesterday, and when we broke the story yesterday, I had texted 2 general managers during the show after I had broke the story on Tom Brady going to Tampa. I said, listen, I don't think you're getting him. You can check, but this is bad news. I don't think you're getting him. And both texted back and said, cool, get back to you later. One of those GMs called me last night to congratulate me. Very classy guy. Tom Telesco with the Chargers called and said, I didn't want to hear it, but congrats, nice job. So real classy guy. They're going to draft the quarterback, I would imagine, if they can in the first round. They sewed up their left tackle yesterday, Brian Beluga, who's still got about a year left in the NFL. He's very Andrew Whitworth, good, not many days left, but a pro at the left tackle spot. And then late yesterday, I was talking to a scouting director out east. And we were just, you can't, this is a weird time for people in the NFL. You can't do physicals. You pulled your scouting departments in. The information you have for the draft is the information you largely have. And he said, he listens occasionally to the show. And, I told him, I said, Tua is my favorite prospect in this draft, but I have health concerns. And he said, every quarterback in this draft has an issue. He goes, Joe Burrow is not an elite arm talent, and he's going to get the you-know-what beat out of him for several years in that division. Baltimore's defensive front, the Steelers' defensive front, and the Browns' defensive front are 3 of the top 7 or 8 in the league, and Burrow's got a bad offensive line. Joe Burrow does not have an elite arm and is going to get crushed for at least a couple of years until they can sew that O-line up. There goes his confidence. Nobody can overcome that. I mean, that's the Sam Darnold thing with the Jets O-line, and Darnold's a playmaker. And he's like, you start feeling the hits before they hit you. You start seeing and hearing ghosts. So he said, we like Burrow, but, you got people out here are making him out to be Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck. He is not. About Tua, he said, we like him, but he's not a world-class athlete, and he's got a big medical concern. He gets hurt a lot in college. I like him, but I can't deny that. He said Jacob Eason Washington. He said he's old school, makes a lot of bad throws, has to have great protection to work. Jordan Love. He said, listen, right coach, it could work. He was terrible his last year in college. He's incredibly loose. There is some Patrick Mahomes, but he doesn't have nearly that arm strength or that talent. He, again, needs the right fit, but there's talent in there. Jake Fromm, Georgia, sees him as a backup. So, Justin Herbert, who I think is undervalued at this point. I think Herbert is good. I think he may have the best NFL career. I think he's a very high B-plus prospect. 2 is more A-minus, but if he gets hurt, then he's out. And the knock on Herbert is, if you get Herbert that was in the Rose Bowl, you got a franchise A quarterback. But Oregon's offense, he didn't have a ton to throw to in terms of talent, was highly conservative. And there are a lot of concerns out there that with Herbert, he can't do anything off script. You got to drop everything for him. My argument and pushback is that's not what I saw at the Senior Bowl. That's not what I saw in the Rose Bowl. Once the Oregon staff knew, here's the season, we can let him run around because they didn't have a backup they trusted, then he was great. If you watch Justin Herbert, go YouTube the highlights of his Rose Bowl. He looks like Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. Not quite as big, not quite as fast, but he looks like him. So I think Herbert now is undervalued. I think Burrow is overvalued. And I know this. Herbert goes to the Chargers. He's going to a significantly better roster. It's not close. The Chargers roster, the Chargers have sewn up their O-line issues. Herbert will be better with the Chargers than Burrow will be for the Bengals because we all know this. it's all about where you land. If Brady lands in Cincinnati and Carson Palmer lands with Belichick, we have different books to write. Computer systems and cars, the new normal. Call 800-CAR-6000, carshield.com. Either way, get 10% off. Protection when your warranty runs out. Carshield.com. Here's veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So some news out of the NBA yesterday. Kevin Durant has tested positive for the coronavirus. The Nets said that 4 players on the team tested positive, even though only one was showing symptoms. Durant texted Shams Charania of The Athletic, said, feels fine. He was one of the guys not showing any symptoms. He's good. I think when the NBA players and young athletes like that get this, it kind of hits home with a lot of us because it's like, okay, if these are some of the best athletes in the world, and if they can get it, anybody can. I think the NBA has had a unique impact on this entire story.
Yeah.
Similar to the way that when John Lennon died, remember it was on Monday Night Football, that's how most people found out that John Lennon had died, from Howard Cosell. I feel like similarly, a lot of us found out about how big this whole thing was watching the NBA. And we got the news that during the Mavs game, with the Mark Cuban response, the league was going to shut down, and the Rudy Gobert story. That's how a lot of us that are sports fans found out really how serious this was.
Yeah, you got to remember with the NBA, it's a very unique sport. First of all, it has the most people coming down with a virus because it was in the middle of its season. Baseball hasn't started yet, and football's inactive. So in the NBA, you have every star player's got 4 or 5 guys around him all the time. It is also no helmet, no distancing. You lean on people, you sweat on people. Basketball, to me, has always been the sport most endangered by the virus. You know, hockey, you've got a wall of glass between the fans and the players. Everybody's got helmets on, shields. You don't touch hands. And, you know, so to me, basketball, like March Madness and NBA, those are the 2 automatics.
And you share a ball.
Yeah, you share one ball. So it's not surprising to me that the NBA... Now, the good news is NBA players may be in the best shape of anybody in the world, you know, outside of Tour de France cyclists. So the good news is, if anybody can withstand this statistically, it's young athletes.
So to the NFL, where the Cowboys have agreed to a deal with former Bucs and Panthers defensive tackle Gerald McCoy. It was a longtime Buck. He spent 1 season with the Panthers last year. He had 5 sacks. Cowboys needed to add something to their defense. They lost Robert Quinn, Jeff Heath, and most importantly, Byron Jones, all in free agency.
Yeah, not much of a D.
No, and their defense wasn't good to begin with. The 6-time Pro Bowler has never made the playoffs in his entire career. So, is that going to change in 2020? Are the Cowboys a playoff team with that depleted defense and overpaid quarterback?
No. Well, I heard they want to go and get Emmanuel Sanders today.
Perfect transition. That was my next story.
So they're going to pay everybody they're going to pay Gerald McCoy and Emmanuel Sanders and Amari and
McCoy,
Zeke.
I will say McCoy's deal looks to be about $6 million a year. So it's not a high price guy.
It's something though. They're running out of cap space.
Absolutely. And to your point, the Cowboys have expressed interest in veteran receiver Emmanuel Sanders, according to NFL Network's Jane Slater. The interest is mutual. I don't know if you know this. Sanders played college football at SMU, which is obviously in the Dallas area, and he still spends his offseason in that area. Helped the Niners get to the Super Bowl last year. A receiving core of Amari Cooper, Emmanuel Sanders, and Michael Gallup is as good of a 3-deep as you're going to find in the NFL. That would be a great group of receivers for Dak Prescott.
Well, Dak Prescott, I'll tell you, if they land Emmanuel Sanders, it is amazing how little some guys get to the NFL and they inherit nothing. Dak Prescott may have more weapons his first 4 years in this league than any quarterback of my life. Well, Mahomes. Mahomes has great weapons, and Andy Reid, but good Lord, if they get Emmanuel Sanders in Dallas.
3 good receivers, an athletic tight end. You know, they're not going to use Witten anymore, who does those 3-yard curl routes, and that's about it. And then, by the way, arguably the best running back in the NFL, and still a good offensive line. There'd really be no excuse left for Dak to not be a little more productive. Again, I don't know where their bank is. I'm not sure how in a salary cap league they seem to be able to just spend whatever they want.
This is the Rams model, which is 7 or 8 rock stars and then no depth. And you get one bad Zach Martin injury to the O-line, and DeMarcus Lawrence twists an ankle and he's out, and you have no pass rush for a month. and you have to win wild shootouts, and I don't think Dak, even with Emmanuel Sanders, is built for that.
The Sanders signing, to me, says they're going all in on off. Gerald McCoy signing is nice, but he doesn't even replace what they lost in terms of sack production with Robert Quinn. So this becomes very much okay, we're just going to have to outscore people. And like you said, I don't know that Dak is my first pick for quarterbacks to win that way.
Yeah. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
John, hold on very quickly. You may have to put that music on. Hold on. I've got a text here. Hold on. Let me do a quick text here. They are making things happen in America. Okay, John. Quarterback trade. Jacksonville is trading Nick Foles to the Bears for a fourth-round pick. Bear coaches, according to Adam Schefter. Bears coaches like Matt Nagy. I like Matt Nagy a lot, by the way. They've worked with Nick Foles in the past. So Nick Foles is going to Chicago, and my guess is Trubisky's the starting quarterback, but Nick Foles will play. Nick Foles will play. So Jacksonville is down to Gardner Minshew, and I guess they'll draft a quarterback. They, for the record, Jacksonville's got, the 9th pick in the draft? They can get a quarterback. You know what that tells me right there? This actually is something. So now think about this. So give me who are the, I don't have it right now, so we go, who's drafting 8 right now? Give me 8, 9, 10, 11. Who is draft? No, wait. Give me 7. Give me 6. 6 is the Chargers, right? Miami's 5. They're going to take a quarterback. 6 Chargers. 7's who?
Carolina.
Carolina's got a quarterback. 8.
Arizona.
Arizona's got a quarterback. 9.
Jacksonville. Okay,
so if you're Jacksonville now, Nick Foles is gone. By the way, you got out of that contract. I never liked that contract to begin with. You're out of it. And Gardner Minshew cost you nothing. So if you're Jacksonville at 9, you're going to draft a quarterback, aren't you? I mean, so this is going to be very interesting. So we know Cincinnati at number 1. Cincinnati's going to get a quarterback. Miami at 5 wants a quarterback. Chargers at 6 didn't get Brady. They need a quarterback. All right. So Cincy, Miami, Chargers, and now Jacksonville.
One more nugget, Colin.
Yeah.
If they need to move up, they also have the 20th pick from the Rams for the Jalen Ramsey trade. So they have if they needed to move up into the top 5, they have another first-round pick.
Okay, so we have a potential for 4 quarterbacks taken. Cincy 1, Joe Burrow. Miami 5, I'll guess Tua. Chargers 6, Justin Herbert, who I think will win. And then Carolina's got Bridgewater. They won't take a quarterback. Arizona is going to fix their offensive line. 10, I think that's Cleveland. They'll take an offensive tackle. 11, I think 11's the Jets. They'll take they got a center yesterday, and they re-signed Alex Lewis. I'm not sure. And they got Noah Fant, so I'm not sure if the Jets do go offensive line. I think they do, but they're not as desperate today as 5 days ago. So it looks like you're going to have 4 quarterbacks taken. Jacksonville's got to get a quarterback unless they think, you might as well. And they can move up. Wow. This is not a small deal. So Nick Foles goes to Chicago. And, basically what they're – now, Foles is not quite as athletic as Trubisky, but he's a better thrower of the football. And he's a real classy guy. You can bring him into the room. He won't disrupt anything. Nick Foles has had just an incredible career. He has almost quit, won a Super Bowl, got paid a ton, now in Chicago. So this, I think, changes the draft. Wow. Wow. I can't wait for the draft. I cannot. The only thing I'm bummed out the NBA season got shelved, but I'll say this. I cannot wait for the draft. Rich Ohrnberger, a great guest, radio in San Diego, former Patriot, going to be joining us next. Don't go anywhere. Joining us next. Live in L.A., it's The Herd. Welcome back. Rich Ohrnberger is a former NFL offensive lineman, Chargers, Cardinals, most notably the Patriots, a teammate with Phillip Rivers and Tom Brady. Great guest today, Rich. Let's first start with actually Phillip Rivers. It's a little stopgap. You put your problems if you're the Colts on a credit card for a year, but what do you make of that fit in Indy with Phillip?
Oh, it's absolutely perfect. Obviously, Frank Wright and he have a great relationship from their time together in, the Chargers organization, both in San Diego and Los Angeles. Frank Reich becomes the head coach after a stopover in Philadelphia and immense success with the Eagles, and he's been searching for a quarterback ever since. Luck retires. Jacoby Brissett doesn't work out. He fits in well there because that's a team that really felt like they were a veteran, energy-creating, tone-setting quarterback away from being great. And I think the Indianapolis Colts have the ability now to go get one.
Yeah. It's what did you make when Tom got traded? Or Tom left, excuse me. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction when Tom Brady got I missed the question. I apologize.
So when Tom announced he's leaving, what was your initial reaction?
Okay, my initial reaction was shocked, to be perfectly honest with you. Through all of this, even though there was a lot of, sort of harsh tones around the water cooler being spoken, I sort of figured that Robert Kraft wouldn't allow Tom Brady to walk away. I assumed that they would do everything in their power. The organization, I know Belichick is a ruthless practitioner of his system. And his system is one that wavers over nobody. I mean, this came down the pike when he was looking to trade Tom Brady to the 49ers, per sources, as opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo, because he doesn't want anybody to go rotten on the vine. He always gets rid of guys a couple of years too soon as opposed to a year or two too late. And so that was the goal with Tom Brady, and I think he still obviously got great success out of Tom Brady in the years where he remained as the Patriots quarterback. But I was still shocked that Robert Kraft allowed this to happen. But this may have been mutual. It feels to me like Tom wanted to leave New England, didn't want to be there, and maybe money wasn't the object. But I was shocked.
Yeah. Tampa's interesting. I covered it for a couple years. They had money. Smart people, really good coaches. I was there for Sam Weiss and Tony Dungy. They've had Gruden, Bruce Arians. They are the one organization that can't get quarterback right. People say, man, Denver can never replace Elway. But they did have, before him, Craig Morton. They did have, after him, Peyton Manning. Tampa is the only organization that's never really had a franchise quarterback who you consider a Hall of Fame level guy. I think Tom solves a lot of this. I know he's past his prime, but I think it works in Tampa. Do you?
Yes. I have supreme belief in Tom Brady as a competitor, and assuming he doesn't hit that proverbial ledge that we've seen even Hall of Fame quarterbacks hit late in their career, like a Brett Favre or a Peyton Manning. Look, he won a Super Bowl on a tank of gas where he was rolling into the gas station. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have much left. But assuming he doesn't hit that ledge, Tampa Bay is one of those teams that is just absolutely polluted with talent on the offensive side of the ball. They just had a guy at quarterback in Jameis Winston. Maybe he will have a rejuvenation somewhere else with his career. But he could not protect the football. And you can't play football in this league if you can't protect the football. He had 30 interceptions. He fumbled 5 times. I mean, that stressed out a Tampa Bay defense that was pretty good.
Yeah.
They were getting to the quarterback. But you just can't have that many turnovers. And Tom Brady won't turn the ball over at that pace.
Here's what I worry about, though, the pendulum swing. I can make an argument, Tampa's the opposite in virtually everything. Weather, efficiency, culture. Tampa's the opposite of New England. New England is the Ivy League student. Tampa's on a perpetual spring break. Bruce Arians is like, why do these coaches work so hard? Belichick's no days off. I worry that he's going to a culture that is so vastly different, looser, not quite historically as efficient, and with the virus, no camp potentially. When you went from the Patriots to the Chargers and Colts and the Chargers and the Cardinals, did you suffer a little bit of culture shock, Patriots to lesser franchises?
Oh, there's absolutely no question about that, and that's a valid concern, Colin. When I left New England, I was shocked at how football wasn't literally everything to everybody else in the NFL. When I was in New England, I walked on eggshells every day because, after being drafted in the 4th round as a backup offensive lineman, I was waiting for, the guy standing around the other side of the corner to ask for my playbook.
Right.
It just felt like every day mattered so much. And I feel like in other organizations, and I've talked to a lot of guys, this isn't just, with the 2 other organizations I played for, other guys, who left New England, they'll tell you, quality of life is a lot better elsewhere. And I think that's a big reason why Tom really considered this late in his career. He's accomplished everything he possibly could accomplish individually and team-wise. Now it's time to see if you can really enjoy playing football for a different franchise and have success. Because that is a hard balance to strike in New England. It's very easy to have success. It's very difficult to enjoy it because you're always on to the next one. Even after a Super Bowl victory, days later, you're putting that on the shelf. You're never looking at it again. You're getting ready for the next season. So, yeah, it could be a concern with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, but what I think actually happens is he gives the organization a shot in the arm with a certain level of focus that has been lacking. I think he actually improves the room as opposed to the room, affecting him.
Yeah. It's interesting. Some of it is the pendulum swing. He wants to have fun. That's what his wife said. It's fascinating to me. I think he wants to play for 3 more years, right? I do think with these weapons, he'll win this divorce, at least publicly, for a year. I think he's going to be very productive. 3 minutes left. Can Tom play another way, though? This is more of a vertical offense. Bruce Arians is more of a vertical offensive-minded coach. Carson Palmer threw the ball big downfield. Jameis throws the ball downfield. Can Tom play a little differently, in your opinion?
Look, I think they're going to meet in the middle. I really do. I believe when you get those 2 chefs in the kitchen, see what they cook up, I think they're going to find a way to make this offense curtail to his stylings and his abilities. Otherwise, they're really going to struggle. Look, I know, and it's been widely reported after the signing, Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit. We're going to go for it all. Carson Palmer, but the truth is, he's working with a guy who doesn't have a limited skill set and may still have some of the best accuracy on deep throws we've seen in the NFL as of late. But can his arm hold up doing that all season long? I think that's where the adjustment comes in, and they work with each other. And these are 2 bright enough guys and long veterans that they could probably find the mutual ground there. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like in this upcoming season.
4 defensive players New England's let go of. No contingency plan for Brady. Not that it would be called tanking, but would it shock you if Belichick said, here, Jared Stidham, go for it. They go 5-11, and they get in the top 8 of next year's draft. I mean, like the Warriors, they've built up equity. They don't, they'll sell that stadium out for a couple of years regardless of win total. Would that shock you if they just said, we're going to go with Stidham, see what we can do, and get a better draft spot?
I think they like Stidham, and I think that may be likely what they do end up doing. And, from what I've heard, he grew a lot away from the light of day, very similar to the reports we heard about Jimmy Garoppolo during his early years in New England. So we'll see what it looks like. One thing I know for certain is Belichick is going to be using all of us saying, hey, is he going to tank? Hey, how are they going to do without Brady as bulletin board material to get that team fired up for next season. He always does keep around certain key veterans to lead certain groups, and we'll see. But, yeah, the cupboards are getting awfully bare in New England.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what that overall record looks like.
By the way, if you haven't heard, Jags sent Nick Foles to the Bears to either back up or beat out Trubisky for a fourth-round pick. So for your show this afternoon, not sure it resonates in San Diego, but the Nick Foles chapter, wasn't much of one, is over in Jacksonville. They have Gardner Minshew. So now with their 9th pick in the draft, they may get a quarterback as well. So there you go. There you go.
It's a busy time. Quarterbacks going everywhere. It's fun. It's fun. It's a nice distraction. It really is.
Rich Ohrnberger, good talking to you, bud.
Yeah, good catching up, Colin.
1360 San Diego, Extra Sports Radio, Fox Sports Radio 2, Steve Hartman, 1 to 5 Eastern on the weekends. Hate your job? Maybe it's time for a career. You could start a new life as an IT pro. Little as 4 months. Go to mycomputercareer.edu. Free career evaluation, not rocket science. It's My Computer Career. All right, we have Chris Sims, NBC Sports. Go to Vegas as well. Casino's shutting down today. Yeah. It's, listen, people are hoarding toilet paper. I had to call my sister. Send me some toilet paper. LA's out. Never had to do that before. Hour 3 next. Los Angeles. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we're on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 83, and today, tomorrow and Friday, we're on FS1 as well, just from a radio studio. A lot of stress out there, sometimes bordering on panic or more. We're all going to get through this. Thanks for joining us. A lot of choices out there. A lot of news choices. Appreciate you joining us. We have been left, it's interesting, with one of the busiest 3 or 4 day stretches I can ever remember doing radio. Seriously, between Monday, yesterday, and today, I don't remember a day that's busy. Yesterday at this time, I had got a little scoop that Brady was going to Tampa. It wasn't a football source, which is rare, but it was just one of those days. I got a couple a year when somebody calls and says this is going to happen. And I'm an opinionist, not a sports reporter, but like everybody else in this business, have contacts. So happy for Tom. I think it's a big pendulum swing from the kind of academic, efficient culture of New England, all football, nothing else, to a looser, less efficient, get off at 5 o'clock and have a margarita, Bruce Arians culture in Tampa. I think Tampa's got talent. I think it's going to be productive. It's a tough division. I don't necessarily think Tom's going to win 15 games or 14 games, but he's going to be productive, and he's going to face Mahomes and Rodgers and Breeze twice, and the Rams. It's going to be all over the news. He's going to be a story every Monday. New England is not. They're not going to be interesting. Worst weapons in the league. Jarrett Stidham was anonymous in the SEC. Forget the NFL. So that's where we're at. Nick Wright came on earlier today. I've asked everybody, their gut feeling, their first reaction when Tom said, I'm no longer a Patriot, and here was Nick Wright.
He asked for a contract extension 2 years ago, and they said, how about some incentives you won't reach even though you just won league MVP and we just went to our 8th Super Bowl? He knew he was going to have to sing for his supper this year, and he was off key all season long. So I wasn't surprised. I was shocked to hear that he's going to Tampa and not California. But I still don't totally get it. Why it's the Bucs over the Chargers, aside from maybe he smartly doesn't want to face Patrick Mahomes twice a year, because who would? But I wasn't surprised he left New England, Colin.
Listen, Tampa's an organization that's done a lot right. They've won a Super Bowl. They've had great coaches. Sam Weiss, smart guy. Got to a Super Bowl. Tony Dungy, John Gruden, Bruce Arians. They've had the coaches. They've had good executives. The Glazer family's got a lot of money. This is not Cincinnati where they're broke, or or Jacksonville where there's no passion. The Bucs have wildly popular and intense, passionate fans. The owners have money. They've had good coaches. They've had Hall of Fame players. I covered them for 2 years. I lived in that locker room. They've got great facilities. It's a state with no state tax. For a young professional athlete, it's a top 7 or 8 place to go. Warm weather, beautiful people, a lot of beaches, no state tax. They just can't get the quarterback right. They're the one. Everybody says we're just a quarterback away. Tampa is. In the history, since 1976, this is amazing. Tampa Bay, 76, that's 86, 96, 2006. It's over 40 years. They're last in quarterback efficiency, last in passer rating, last in TD to interception ratio, last in completion percentage. They literally can't get the quarterback right. They cannot get the quarterback right. Brady gets it right, so they're going to win a bunch of games. Not sure if they can beat New Orleans and that organization, but I do think they vie for a playoff spot. And let's be honest about this whole league. You got to get quarterback right. That's what it's all about. Indianapolis does everything right. Can't get the quarterback right. The GM in Indianapolis, great. The coach is good. The O-line's amazing. The defensive line's now with Bruckner is going to be really good. They've got depth. It's a winnable division. And they can't get the quarterback right. Phillip Rivers too old. Jacoby Brissett too average. Houston makes mistake after mistake, but they have Deshaun Watson. So Russell Wilson has been the great makeup, the great cover-up for all of Seattle's offensive ills. Bad O-line coach, bad O-line, no running game, multiple injuries, undrafted wide receivers. He turns blocking tight ends into productive NFL tight ends. You get the quarterback right, everything else they're the great lubricator. the great lubricator of the sport, the human eraser. They erase the issues, the bad draft picks. Tom Brady eliminated a lot of bad draft picks by New England. I mean, if you go to look at Seattle with Russell Wilson, it's remarkable. Pete Carroll knows personnel. James Carpenter, bad first-round pick. Aaron Curry, his first whiff. Rashad Penny, they tried to trade him last year. They were making calls to see if they can move him. Seattle has butchered some of their early picks. I mean, they really have. Russell Wilson covers all of it. They've had a below-average O-line his entire stay. So you get the quarterback right. Brady has covered up a lot of sins and whiffs by Bill Belichick. Russell Wilson's done the same. So, and it's funny talking about Houston. So if you haven't heard, Chicago went out and got Nick Foles. I don't think it changes a lot. I think Matt Nagy had Foles in Kansas City, and I think by the end of the year, Nick Foles will be starting over Mitch Trubisky. I think Nick Foles is average. I think Trubisky's slightly below average. To be honest with you, I think Green Bay is going to win that division or Minnesota's going to win that division. But it's something, it pushes Trubisky, and it gives Matt Nagy gets a real distributor and thrower of the football, which I think Trubisky's driving him nuts. But just to give you an example about, like, Houston, like, everybody bangs on Bill O'Brien. Houston's terrible. They keep winning the division. They keep making the playoffs. All right, so this is all what it's about. So we don't like what they did with DeAndre Hopkins. But in the end, I live in the state of California, and I follow high school recruiting, and this has been happening for about 5 straight years, now 4 to 5 years. There's one high school running back. State has 38 million people. There is one elite high school running back in the state of California. High school. I counted yesterday, 14 wide receivers who you would consider like top 100 players in the state. All the talent wants to go to wide receiver and quarterback. Houston had DeAndre Hopkins and said, this draft has 50 wide receivers in it. We have Will Fuller. Now we have 2 good running backs. We have a tight end we like. We got Randall Cobb. We're not going to a Super Bowl because of DeAndre Hopkins, who wanted to renegotiate his contract. We just didn't want to go through that. So Bill O'Brien held a meeting. Michael Irvin said they talked about baby mamas and blah, 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 whatevs. But in the end, D-Hop wanted to restructure his contract, and Bill O'Brien's like, no, I'm out. We got enough firepower. We can't stop anybody. Firepower is not our issue. But everybody's overreacting. I don't like what the Houston Texans got back, but this league is not driven by wide receivers. I've always said they're the convertible sports car of professional athletes. They're fun, they're dynamic, they're crazy, but they're not all season. They're not all season. Gets cold, gets windy, can't use them much. But they're fun, they're dynamic. They can go look at the last several Super Bowls. Seattle got the 2 Super Bowls, below average wide receivers. Brady, except for the Moss Welker years, usually had below average wide receivers. Baltimore got a Super Bowl, won it, below average wide receivers. The Kaepernick 49ers that were dominant for a couple of years, they didn't have great wide receivers. Look around. You don't have to be, you want to be better than bad, but you don't have to be great. In fact, I looked at this morning. 49ers got to a Super Bowl. They had major wide receiver issue injuries all year. The best wide receiver year ever, arguably Calvin Johnson. Detroit went 4-12 with him. Of the top 10 leading wide receivers, yardage-wise, 1 was on a team last year that won a playoff game. Most didn't make the playoffs. So there's very few great left tackles, very few great quarterbacks, very few great cover corners, very few great pass rushers. There's a million wide receivers. There's 48 are going to get drafted. So I don't have a problem moving off DeAndre Hopkins. They got a 2nd-round pick for him. They probably should have gotten 2 seconds or a 1st. But the idea of leaving a wide receiver to get picks and upgrade your defense, I don't have a problem with that. I think we make too much of it. This league is all about quarterback. Houston does so many things wrong, according to the critics. They keep winning their division. They went 10-6 last year. And from what I read, they can't do anything right. They got the right quarterback. Chris Sims, NBC Sports, former Buck, by the way. Talk about Tampa. I mean, what does he like about Tampa? What drove him nuts in Tampa? That's coming up. Every year, millions of American men, they do that spring cleaning thing. In fact, I'm getting to mine early. Go to the garage, clean stuff out, or the underwear drawer. Get rid of the ratty stuff. Go to Tommy John. I've been wearing it for 5 years. Moisture wicking. The loungewear, I wear it around the house. Breathable, light, doesn't shrink. None of the problems with your typical ratty underwear. It's called Tommy John. Upgrade, soft, soaks up moisture. It literally doesn't shrink. The most comfortable stuff on the planet. No wedgie guarantee. On average, you can run through 6 to 8 T-shirts a year. Tommy John, I've had the same ones for 4 years. I do wash them. TommyJohn.com. The code is HERD, HERD, 20% off your first order. It's not the cheapest. It is the best. TommyJohn.com, code HERD. Love the stuff. Chris Sims works for NBC Sports. He is a former Buck. He reported over the last weekend, he said, hey, Brady's down to the Bucks and the Patriots. And he also reported the Niners are out. He is good friends with Kyle Shanahan. And so Chris is joining us on a pretty frenetic week. Let me start. First of all, Chris, thanks for coming on. I appreciate this.
Oh, anytime, man. Hey, Colin, you the man. I enjoy listening to you. I watch you all the time, and anytime I get a chance and I'm free, I'm down to come on with you, man.
So I covered the Bucks for 2 years. I thought it was well run and smart. It was a little loose, but I always thought there were smart people in the front office. I covered Dungy and I covered Sam Weish. This is the one franchise in America that can say, you know, we just have never had a superstar quarterback.
Right.
Your experience there, how does Tom and that attention to detail, how does it fit in Tampa, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going to be a little bit of a culture shock. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be a little bit like, hey, you know, I'm used to obsessive compulsive, cross every T, dot every I, you know, type of coaches. And not to say that, you know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Bruce Arians aren't that way, but come on. I mean, we know that Bill Belichick leads the history of football in that department, so nobody's going to be quite that. To your point, to what you said, I mean, I think it's a city that's starving for this type of player. You know, when I was there and lost my spleen, not long after that, you might remember that we were very into the Brett Favre chase there before he ended up picking the New York Jets that year.
Yep.
So this is a franchise in the Glazers who I think is really welcoming this opportunity. And, yeah, will it be as buttoned up, as perfect as New England? No, nobody is that way. But I do think that Tom Brady's going to get a lot of things that he didn't get in New England with Tampa, and that is a head coach that's going to, you know, show a little affection and respect and maybe a little more dialogue about game plan and what to do and how he feels and all of those things that I'm sure really appeal to Tom Brady, let alone the team and the offense have potential with him, because Brady can still throw the ball at a very, very high level. His arm is still towards the top of football as far as arm strength is concerned.
I never thought I like the Glazer kids. He's obviously, in terms of wealth, he's got some ownership over in the UK with the English Premier League team. Did you like the Glazers? Did you find them willing to spend money and easy to talk to and the right kind of you know, you can't win in this league with a bad ownership group. How did you feel they were as owners?
Oh, I think the world of the Glazer family. I mean, first off, they have a great humanity side to them. They care about their coaches and the people in the organization as people. They really showed that with me, with my spleen and my issues. And, you know, they're invested. They're in that building a lot.
Yeah.
They are. And, you know, they care about their Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they'll stick their nose in, but I think just the right amount, you know, to where they let the coaches and the people they hired run their organization, but they certainly have a good feel of what's going on. And they're not scared to spend money, as we're seeing right here with this. I mean, you know, this is pretty awesome. And then the franchise tag of Shaquille Barrett and getting back JPP and everything like that. Tampa, even before Brady signed there, it was one of those teams where, you know, I had a little asterisk next to say, ooh, watch out.
Yeah.
They could be very good next year. And, of course, now this makes you feel a little bit more confident in saying that.
Yeah, I'm a Todd Bowles fan as a coordinator. You know, I've said this before. Al Gore was a great vice president. You know, maybe not the president. There are guys that are built to be vice president. I think Bowles is a great defensive coordinator.
Definitely. I'm with you. Creative. And I think, you know, you got to be that way this day and age. You know, the day and age of like, oh, we're just going to line up and play two defenses and we're going to be sound and we won't mess up. You know, I just think that's over. If you're not able to conform and change on a week-to-week basis like we've seen New England do for the past 20 years, and, oh, yeah, that's right, they've dominated the league for 20 years, then I just think you're crazy. So I do like that aspect. Special front seven in Tampa. I mean, special. Those two linebackers they got, you know, Levante David and the kid from, you know, I'm blanking on his name, from LSU, Devin White.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the defensive line. They have some young, upcoming superstars in the secondary. So I think, yes, those are things that had to appeal to Tom Brady, let alone, whoa, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, two really good tight ends.
Yeah, two.
And,
yeah,
right. And a creative offensive minds in Arians and Leftwich.
Yeah, I think they'll address one of their tackle spots, get a running back. quarterback, and they're ready to roll. I think it's a real football team. Now, New England, we've used this analogy several times. Golden State wins a bunch of games. They have equity with their fans, so they can reboot. The fans will fill the stadium several years after Michael Jordan had his 6 titles. New England, my guess is they go with Jarrett Stidham. They've already given up on 4 defensive players. They get younger, they get cheaper, and they kind of reboot for a year. I do think there is a big drop off. I don't like their weapons at all. I have no idea what I get with Stidham. Is it possible, not tanking, but that Belichick's saying this is the year we get rid of some money, we get younger, it's a complete reboot year, and then we get in the top 8 or 9 of the draft next year and get one of these quarterbacks?
Well, yeah, I think that's very real. I mean, that thought is, yeah, they're retooling. Now, New England's special. I mean, they can retool and rebuild and still make it to the playoffs. I'm never going to count them out here. I'm really not. There's still a lot of quality football players and a coaching staff that I just think the world of. Yeah, to me, on the outside looking in, I know for a fact that they love Jarrett Stidham. Are they willing to roll with him, right now in year 2 of his career without him playing? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't rule out maybe Andy Dalton ending up in New England. I really wouldn't. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But, nonetheless, I do think, yes, New England is in a little era here of retooling, refurbishing their football team to get back at, a level we're used to seeing them at. And they're not quite there yet. But, they'll get there. I know that. And they're all about value signings, as we know, Colin. Like Damiere Byrd at wide receiver. Nobody's really going to know that. But, they signed him from Arizona last year. Pretty good player who has potential to be something. That's how they play football, and I certainly am not counting them out yet.
By the way, I had I'll just say this. I had a very prominent NFL person tell me yesterday that it was brief, but Jimmy G, you could have made a call to San Francisco. They would have at least listened to the phone call. This person said, we heard about it. You said, you were the first one that said, there's a rumor out there with the Niners. It's now officially done. I was told yesterday,
right,
even though I didn't understand it, that Garoppolo, if not on the market, they would have listened to calls. Can you give us some clarity now that it appears, Brady's in Tampa, Garoppolo's going to be the guy?
Yeah, sure. No, I knew a lot really about the situation and, from both sides, from all angles. You said it. I do know Kyle Shanahan, of course. He calls me Johnny Media now, so he's very scared to tell me much, okay? That's what he calls me. So I don't get much information from Kyle Shanahan anymore and really try to stay out of those combos a lot of the time. But I knew some people that were, connected to Brady where I had to feel the situation. I know some people in New England as well. I do think the Brady to San Francisco thing was a very real possibility.
Yep.
I know Brady wanted it.
Yeah.
I do think the 49ers, from my understanding, tossed around the idea. And I think that's where people, maybe missed that conversation a little bit and they just thought, oh, yeah, Brady to 49ers, are they just going to do that and swap out Jimmy G? No. I think a big part of that was if you were going to make that move for a 43-year-old quarterback who maybe, leaves after 1 year and just says, okay, I'm too old, it's over, you got to get a respectable trade offer for Jimmy Garoppolo, too. I think people are missing that piece of the puzzle. You weren't just going to swap out, I know Brady's the GOAT, for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's just starting to hit the prime of his career, and just say, oh, we'll just make an even swap and that's it. No, I think a big factor with that would be the 49ers would have to have an offer and acquire some assets to go along with it to move on from Jimmy G, because there is great risk at signing a quarterback who's 43 years old and maybe only plays 1 or 2 more years, or pulls a calf muscle in week 2 because he is 43, and we go, damn, well, yeah, what'd you expect, he's 43. Those type of things happen. So I do think that was a very big part of that conversation, for sure, Colin.
Yeah, and that's what I was told yesterday, that there were suitors. I mean, you and I can both figure them out. Chargers probably would have called.
I would think so.
Carolina probably would have called. Chicago maybe called. So I guess my point is there was more to it than I gave it credit for, and you were on the You were on the front of this, Johnny Media, and congratulations.
Thank you, Colin Media. I appreciate that.
Finally, it is basketball's changed. It used to be it was about centers. Now you can't have a second guy on the court that can't shoot a three. Clint Capella, Houston, no value because Westbrook can't shoot a three. We can't have two. In the NFL, accuracy and mobility matter. The world's changing. Pocket quarterbacks. I always say this. Jacob Eason would have been the top quarterback prospect 8 years ago. Now he's probably number 5. He's kind of Flacco-ish. I look at Cam Newton. I don't see a huge marketplace.
I
don't see. I mean, injured, inaccurate, drama, older. What is it? Chicago went and got Foles. So
I know.
What's the marketplace for Cam? I've been saying this. I don't see it.
Well, no, listen, there's certainly risk. There's no doubt about that, and especially right now with the fact that teams can't do, medical check-ins and checkups on guys. That's really going to throw a wrench into Cam Newton. Listen, I don't know the particulars of what happened to Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, but just as it looks right now, it kind of seems like Carolina did him dirty. I mean, all the quarterback seats are full. Hey, now you can go seek a trade. Whoa, okay, great. I mean, up until an hour ago, there was only 2 teams that need a quarterback, and you just said it. The Bears filled that hole with Nick Foles. So now is the Chargers going to get in play? I don't know.
I don't know. I just, it feels like they solved their guard and left tackle spot. It feels like they're getting ready to put somebody in that spot like a Justin Herbert. They don't want to get dinged up.
Right.
That's that Beluga's got maybe 1 or 2 years left. What they're trying to do, it feels like to me, is we're going to get a young guy. The one thing we don't want is him to get his butt kicked physically and lose confidence.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, I have no problem with that. I certainly, Justin Herbert, I've been studying him. I mean, he's a special talent. He's a top 10 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So if they want to go the route and play with Tyrod Taylor for a year, hey, that's fine. I do think Cam Newton fits the style in which they want to play. I mean, Anthony Lynn being an ex-running back, them having a top 5 defense in football. Hey, you mentioned it. Cam Newton's not the type of guy that we think is going to go like 35 for 42 and you're going to drop him back and he's just going to wheel and deal all game long. No, but he can play that style of football, ball control. Hey, we ran the ball. Hey, Cam, you run the ball. Okay, you haven't thrown the ball in a few plays, but doesn't matter. You're Cam Newton. Just muscle in some 20-yard in cut in there. He is capable of doing that. That's what he's been doing. So, the potential of Cam Newton excites me. The Chargers do need, billboard material there in LA.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I do look at it. But other than that, you're right, Colin. I don't know where he ends up at this point in time.
It makes me think, Chris. I know Anthony Lynn wants to move the pocket.
Right.
I know that. And I know Spanos has said we need to sell tickets. I wonder because if there's no market for Cam, you're going to get him at a value.
Yep.
And you draft Jordan Love.
Okay.
And then you say, okay, Cam, 2-year deal. We're going to sit Jordan for 2 years. You both have similar styles. Now, that would make sense to me because Jordan Love has got a little Cam. I don't think he's quite as gifted. But now that would be interesting. So I could solve, in your opinion, I could solve the billboard problem.
Right.
I get a good number on Cam.
Right.
And I get the next Cam. That is interesting. Yeah.
No doubt. Some possibility there. It does. And of course, you have a defense and a lot of things on your team that you like to where you go, you can win now.
Oh,
yes. You really can, right?
Yes.
I mean, yes. So that I look at that and, the big thing again with Cam Newton is just going to be the medical checkup and how that all plays out because, you said it. You're right. He's 30 years old. He's been beat up. He's played the position in a style in a way that we've really never seen a quarterback play that way. So does it catch up to him? I think that's the fear. I would say no, not yet. I would say that we're still going to see a few good years from Cam Newton before this is all said and done. And the big thing is, like you just said too, I mean, you're not going to have to trade much to get him,
No.
and especially maybe nothing now because there's going to be no competition. They've gone all in with Teddy Bridgewater. They've cornered themselves there. So you might be able to just say, hey, we're going to wait until you release him. Just release him, and then we'll sign him. And might not have to trade anything.
Yeah, Chris Sims, great talking to you. Listen to your dad every week as well, doing his radio hits during the season with that crazy Chris Russo. So I hear the whole family all the time, my man. Good talking to you.
Thanks, man. Good talking to you as always. Be good, buddy.
You bet. Feel better with M-Drive, everyday supplement for dudes. Go to mdriveformen.com. The code is HERD, 20% off your first month. Energy, lean muscle, body testosterone, supplement. I take one every morning. Here's veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Herd on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So earlier today I mentioned the Bears might have or were in contact with the Panthers about trading for Cam Newton.
Yeah.
But obviously since then we had some breaking news that the Bears traded a 4th-round pick for Nick Foles.
Now, Nagy worked with him in Kansas City.
Yes, Foles, before he went back to the Eagles, he spent 1 year as the backup at Kansas City, and Nagy was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So as you just talked about with Chris Sims, what is left for Cam Newton?
I think
it feels
the Chargers
like they played musical chairs, and he's the one left standing.
I think the Chargers make sense now.
So, according to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, also Sims' colleague, the Chargers are debating if they should pursue him. Not if they should sign him, if they should pursue him.
The number, you can get him for nothing now.
Well, so here's my question, though. So, yes, he only makes $19 million, which for a starting veteran quarterback in the NFL is very low.
Nothing.
Is he willing to play without he has 1 year left on his deal. Is he willing to play in a lame duck year? Also, Colin, here's my question. I think either way, the Chargers are going to want to draft a quarterback with their 6th pick. You've said before that there's a lot of stuff about Cam that we don't know.
Here's the thing. You just need Cam. You draft Jordan Love. You do a front-loaded deal where you pay Cam a lot for a year, and then after a year, you put in Jordan Love. It's not a 3-year deal. It's a 1-year deal.
Sure. Like I said, is he willing to play without an extension? And also, you said that there's a lot of stuff with Cam the public doesn't know that the Panthers have kept hidden. Is that who you want in the quarterback room with a young, impressionable quarterback?
I think Cam's ability to be fascinating in a new stadium for 1 year.
Absolutely. It sells tickets for sure.
Yeah.
And then you have a contingency plan. You have a young quarterback. But I will also ask this. If not the Chargers, who? Who's left?
Cam's not a backup. He doesn't give you any value in the quarterback room. He's not a... that's not what he does.
Right, he's not a film star.
He's not a Bridgewater.
He's
Yeah, he's not a Bridgewater.
So
or Alex
who's
Smith.
going after him? If not the Chargers,
Chargers. I think the Chargers. And I got to say, I would sit there and think to myself, okay, I'll give him $24 million I'll guarantee a bunch of money. If he's got no market, they don't have to pay him a ton. They'll just say, listen, we'll give you a 2-year deal.
Technically, they don't have to pay him anything. If they end up trading for him. If you traded a late pick, the Panthers aren't going to get much for him anyway. You could just leave him on his $19 million deal.
I got to be honest with you. The Jordan Love Charger thing and Cam Newton, then draft Jordan Love.
You're talking yourself into it. A lot of it makes sense.
I need that. This virus is not allowing me to have lunches with influential people. It is real. How many stories? I broke the world's biggest story yesterday.
I'll say you beat Schefter by 6 hours.
Yeah,
yesterday.
if I got to break stories, I need lunches.
So we had another trade in the NFL today. The Broncos have traded for Titans defensive tackle Jarrell Casey.
Older but good.
He is not a known he's a little undervalued in terms of how much national recognition he gets.
He's good.
He is a really, really good player.
Yeah.
They only traded a 7th-round pick for him, not because that's what he's worth, because basically the Titans need to dump salary. They just don't want to pay him.
Right.
But he's a hell of a player. He's compiled at least 5 sacks in each of the past 7 seasons. So now the Broncos have Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, and now this guy in the middle.
They're going all in.
I know you said this before. You are big on the Broncos as your team that's going to shock everyone this year.
Remember, you look at the Broncos this morning and you think, wow, what a bad year. They were 7-9, lost 2 games at the one. The refs
they didn't know who they had.
No
quarterbacks.
Okay, so they have massively upgraded their defensive front now with Casey. They found their quarterback. To me, that's a 10 to 11 win team next year. That's another. And by the way, Vic Fangio, if you go look at his career, the second half of that season, remember when they just annihilated Houston in Houston? Yeah. I think Denver next year is a playoff team. I really do. I really like Denver next year.
And finally,
yes.
So Tom Brady going to the Bucs has already had the desired effect, at least from an ownership standpoint. The demand for Bucs season tickets has surged, even with the unofficial news that Brady will be a Buccaneer. So on Ticketmaster yesterday, at one point, the amount of people waiting online, meaning you logged in and you were waiting for your chance to buy tickets, 2,900 people were waiting to buy season tickets. That's a lot of people waiting online. I don't know how long that takes, but it takes a while. I think the difference between the Bucs and the Chargers need Tom Brady to sell tickets. The Bucs just need someone to be good to sell tickets. I think they were really low in attendance last year. I think it's mostly because everyone's seen Jameis.
And they're done with it.
Right.
It's like the Mariota, Tennessee. Like, it's just, there's a fatigue. Like, we're not getting where we want to get with our guy.
Right. So already thousands of season ticket orders. I think at least the Glazers can be happy about that.
How about that? Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Todd Furman, I'm told, is going to be joining us next. We're going to check into Las Vegas, so Todd's going to join us. Casinos are all shut down. What can you bet on now? A UFC fight? Curling? Are there draft bets? I don't know. I'll ask him. Something I look forward to every month is my shipment from Butcher Box. Now, this is the best time to ever order Butcher Box. First of all, I love it. Second of all, can't go to restaurants. I mean, you can't go to restaurants. So you're either doing drive-through, pickup. They have customizable boxes, free shipping, and heritage breed pork, free organic chicken, beef, no antibiotics. No hormones ever. And again, free shipping. Customize your own boxes. Scallops are great. Wild-caught salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska is great. Natural, fresh, and delicious. The way it's meant to be. Now, if you go there right now, go to butcherbox.com/herd, H-E-R-D. They're going to give you $20 off your first box, pack of bacon free, and 2 filet mignons free. So they're juicing it for the first one. They're giving you a couple steaks free, bacon free, $20 off. Butcherbox.com/HERD. It is close to grilling season. Get on it. All right, welcome back. By the way, this just in from Ian Rappaport, somebody I trust, a veteran reporter. The Chargers, they're not going for Cam Newton either. They are going to go with Tyrod Taylor and draft a quarterback. Now, Tyrod's a total pro. He's like Teddy Bridgewater. You put him in the room, he's Alex Smith. Total pro, respected, can win you games. Probably not somebody you're going to give a fortune to, but the Chargers, they like their culture. And they're going to go with Tyrod Taylor and draft a quarterback. So they're not interested in Cam either. I've been saying this for years. The fanboys in the media like Cam Newton way more than all the GMs I've ever talked to. Cam's a lot of work, a lot of stuff you don't know about. There's no market for him. Chicago could have had him. Chargers could have had him. Tampa could have had him. Nobody wants him. Totally distracted. This is a Colin was right next Monday. Todd Furman, lock it in. Co-founder of Bet the Board Pod, is joining us from Las Vegas. First of all, the casinos close at what time today, Todd? Like 5 or 6?
Yeah, everything will shut down in short order, Colin. And I've been out here for 15 years, never imagined a day where the casinos would completely shut down and you'd be able to walk anywhere you wanted on Las Vegas Boulevard without really bumping into more than 2 or 3 people from Tropicana all the way up to Flamingo and further on down the road.
Tom Brady to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How did it change the odds?
Move the odds a good amount. When you look at Tampa, they were about a 45 or 50 to 1 shot at Fox Bet going into free agency. We've seen those odds really shrink down to 19 to 1, which puts them in that same class as the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, and Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
Kind of that second tier. And when you look at the odds for the NFC South, that's the one that we've seen an even bigger move. They were about 6 to 1 to win the division. That number now down to a shade less than 2 to 1, putting them only behind the Saints for division supremacy.
Yeah, this morning when I woke up, I thought Saints 1, Bucks 2. Okay, so now New England with either Andy Dalton or Jarrett Stidham. What are the odds? What does Fox Bet say there?
It's a very different dynamic. Fox Bet is taking a little bit more precautionary approach to the Patriots. They're still at 21 to 1. On the site. You've seen some books out here in the desert go as low as 40 to 1. I think this boils down to the simple question of how much do you really trust Bill Belichick? If you believe in his judgment, regardless of who's under center, that'll offer some value. But if you think Jarrett Stidham is going to have inevitable growing pains like I believe a lot of us do, I don't think 20 to 1 is enough to get me to the window anytime soon.
You know, Phillip Rivers, I think he's an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. I don't think it's a massive upgrade, but these guys who have been doing it for 20 years, they're good at the line of scrimmage. They do have a very good offensive line, so he's going to have time to throw. You know, what's Vegas and Fox Bet saying about the Colts this morning?
You know, not a huge move on the Colts, 35 to 1 before the Phillip Rivers signing, now down to 28 to 1. I think the bigger move for them was on the defensive side of the ball, going all in to get DeForest Buckner, trading that 13th overall pick. But I think the dynamic that's fascinating is everything that's unfolding in the AFC South. All of these teams have made big moves, whether it's the Tennessee Titans re-signing Ryan Tannehill and putting a franchise tag on Derrick Henry, the Colts going out adding Phillip Rivers, getting Bucks, the Houston Texans dealing DeAndre Hopkins, and, of course, the Jaguars, who were an afterthought, trading Nick Foles to the Bears. You're looking at the Titans and Colts more or less co-favorites. The Texans take a step back at a price just shy of 5 to 2. And the Jaguars, assuming they'll go with Gardner Minshew, the real long shot on the board at 9 to 1.
You know, we were just talking about this. I've never been a huge Cam fan. I think he's an average player who had one sensational year. Now he's injury prone, distracted, not an accurate thrower, 85, 86 passer rating. That's just what he is. Never had back-to-back winning seasons. Since the MVP, he's 23 wins, 23 losses, and I do think he had a good coach, good running back, Steve Smith and Greg Olsen. Are you surprised there's no market for him?
You know, honestly, not really. I think he's got to go to a situation where he can be a perfect fit. And one of the big sticking points, if I'm an NFL GM right now, knowing the moratorium on getting physicals for some of these players, you don't know exactly what you're getting with Cam. I'd have to see the medical quite personally before I was willing to sign off on him, dealing with the lower body injury. We know his accuracy was a major concern with that shoulder. I think Cam's going to find himself in a spot maybe similar to Jameis Winston, where they're going to have to sign on his backups, hope that the chips fall the right way for them, and they can reassert their dominance as a number one starting quarterback for a team that finds themselves in a little bit of peril without a true bona fide number one on their roster.
All right, who are the top 5 NFL Super Bowl favorites this morning, Todd?
It is the list of usual suspects, Colin. Of course, the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs at 6 to 1. The Ravens at 7.5 to 1, leading the 49ers 8.5 to 1. And then it's the Saints at 12-1 before you really start to drop down to the aforementioned Cowboys, Eagles, Packers, and Bucks. I'm still stunned that we're still talking about, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I know they got Tom Brady, and you can trust their coaching staff, but you know as well as I do, this is a franchise with a long-standing drought of getting to the postseason. Amazed to see people running to the window to try and back the Bucks in such a short number.
I'm surprised Seattle's not higher. If not for the cluster injury at running back, I think they would have gone to Lambeau and beaten Green Bay. What's Seattle at now?
Seattle right there behind Tampa. They're at 20-1. So they're in kind of that next set with the Steelers, with the Patriots, Bills, and Rams. So you're talking about kind of three clear distinctions, and then things really start to get muddled once you get out of that 28-1 range with the Colts for teams to take a precipitous drop-off to like the Titans, the Browns, Texans, what have you, from that lot going down.
Todd Furman, Lock It In co-founder of Bet the Board pod. By the way, you would know this having worked at Caesars. I was always told, sports books are there for men. So while people, to keep them in the casino, watch a game while the wife is maybe doing something else, the kids are doing something else, you keep the guy in the sports book. Let sports books being basically closed now, what percentage of profits does a casino lean on? Is it, if a casino did not have a sports book, is it devastating if you go 6 months without a bet in a sports book when the casinos open back up?
Honestly, not devastating during the summer months by any stretch of the imagination. But when you look at the month of March in just Nevada, $500 million would have been bet on basketball alone, with about 70% expected to come in on the NCAA tournament. So when you take that revenue out, not that big in a vacuum, but you're talking about hotel rooms, you're talking about restaurants, and all the ancillary revenue streams that come along with it. So sports betting in and of itself, more or less just a driver, but the fact that we're talking about a full-scale casino shutdown, something I don't think you ever would have imagined while you worked out here, and I definitely would have 15 years ago when I moved out to the desert to start working in this industry.
By the way, my son's school got canceled on Monday. When you drive around Vegas, so casinos down, schools are they all closed? I think they're all closed, aren't they?
Yep, schools are down now, and they've gone to kind of the full shutdown at this point for anything not deemed non-essential services. You could be outside of a Trader Joe's this morning, and there were about 75 to 100 people waiting in line to try and pick up some of those staples. So, Colin, I think what this will create is an epidemic in card counters when everybody has all this idle time behind closed doors to try and figure out how they're going to make their small fortune when these casinos open back up.
Todd Furman, good talking to you, my man. Stay safe.
Always a pleasure. You do the same, Colin.
All right, thank you. So that's where we're at today. I want to thank everybody who stopped by. Good stuff. Chris Sims, Nick Wright, Jay Glazer stopped by. I still think we have, I'll go back and say it. I think OBJ in Cleveland, I think somebody's going to make a move on him. We found out today the market for Cam Newton is very small, if at all. Chicago went and got Nick Foles. Raiders got Marcus Mariota. Tampa got Tom Brady. Carolina got Teddy Bridgewater. A report out by Ian Rappaport, who I trust, is Tyrod Taylor and draft a quarterback. There's no market for Cam, not much of one. And I've always thought the media likes him more than the football people I talk to. The media's, there's a lot of pom-pom wavers in the media, and they like him, but he's not accurate. He's not dependable. He's now hurt, and he's not even the best running quarterback. And how committed is he? Yeah, and you can't give him a physical. Not much of a market. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us. Computer systems in cars are now the new normal. Sensors, touch screens, electronically controlled transmissions. That's the new normal. There'll be brakes. Those are inevitable. That's where CarShield comes in. It is a warranty once your warranty is done. If you buy a new car, most cars on the road aren't new. I'm not driving a new car. Most of them aren't. This is where America's #1 auto protection provider. Go to carshield.com, put in the code HERD, get 10% off. Or just call 800-CAR-6000. Do the same, 800-CAR-6000, code HERD, 10% off. If your car breaks down when you have CarShield, you get a rental car for free. You can pick your own mechanic and be dealership you bought the car in. Roadside assistance 24/7 for free as well. You need protection. You don't want to get burned. Central Light goes out and got to pay $900. We'll see you tomorrow live in L.A. It's the Herd.